You're trapped in a ritual that has no power. Have you noticed it yet? Every morning you wake up with rules, routines, plans. You tell yourself this is discipline, this is the path. Cold showers. Early wake-ups. The right habits stacked in the right order. And for a while it feels like progress. You feel stronger, more in control. But then something shifts. The system you built to sharpen your mind starts to feel like a cage. And the harder you push, the more you feel like you're running in place. Here's what no one's telling you. The reason your discipline keeps breaking down isn't because you lack willpower. It's because you've been using discipline as a weapon, when what you needed was architecture. You've been forcing yourself into shape instead of building a structure that holds you without effort. And there's a difference. A massive one. Viridius Theron used to say the mind doesn't break from too much pressure. It breaks from pressure applied to the wrong foundation. You can stack stones all you want, but if the ground beneath them isn't solid, the tower falls. Not because the stones were weak, because the builder never checked what he was building on. Right now, you're building on sand, and you don't even know it. You think the problem is motivation, or consistency, or that you're just not trying hard enough. But the real problem is deeper. You've been taught that self-mastery is about control. That if you just grip tighter, push harder, plan better, eventually you'll break through. But control isn't mastery. Control is exhausting. And the moment you loosen your grip, everything you built collapses. This isn't your fault. You were never taught the difference. No one showed you that there's an older method, one that doesn't rely on force, one that works with the mind instead of against it. The Japanese discovered it, the Stoics understood it, and it's been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why your mind keeps sabotaging the systems you build and what you need to do instead. Kale Torvin didn't start as the kind of man who had control. He started as the kind of man who needed it. Sharp jaw, cleft chin, the look of someone who'd been through something and came out harder. But hard isn't the same as whole. And Kale knew that. He'd spent years building himself into a weapon. Training, discipline, structure, every hour accounted for, every weakness cataloged and addressed. He was relentless, the kind of person people admired from a distance but never got close to. And for a long time, that worked. Until it didn't. It happened on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. He just woke up and couldn't do it. Couldn't force himself through the routine. Not because he was tired. Not because he didn't care. But because something inside him had quietly given up. The system he'd built to make himself stronger had become the thing draining him. And he didn't know why. That's when he met Viridius. An older man, deep amber eyes that didn't judge, just saw. Kale expected advice. A pep talk. Some new framework to try. Instead, Viridius asked him one question. What are you resisting? Kale didn't understand. He wasn't resisting anything. He was doing everything right. That was the problem. Viridius just nodded. Then he said something Kale would never forget. You're not failing because you lack discipline. You're failing because you're using discipline to fight yourself. And no one wins a war against their own mind. He told Kale about an old Japanese concept, Mizu no Kokoro, mind like water. The idea that the mind, in its natural state, doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be clear. When water is still, it reflects everything perfectly. When it's disturbed, it shows nothing. And the mistake most people make is thinking they need to force the water to be calm. But you can't force stillness. You can only stop disturbing it. Kale had been disturbing his own water for years. Every rule he made, every system he built, every time he told himself he wasn't enough yet. It was a stone thrown into the surface, and he thought if he just threw enough stones in the right order, eventually the water would settle. But it doesn't work that way. The more you throw, the more chaotic it gets. Marcus Aurelius knew this. He wrote in his private notes, late at night when no one was watching, that the mind has a natural order, that your job isn't to create that order. It's to stop interfering with it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, not control. Strength, there's a difference. Cale sat with that. He stopped asking what he needed to do next. He started asking what he needed to stop doing. What rules he'd built that were just noise. What systems he was maintaining out of fear, not function. And slowly something shifted. Not because he added more discipline, because he removed the interference. Stay with this. This is the part most people look away from. The hardest thing Cale ever did wasn't waking up at 5 in the morning or sticking to a plan. It was letting go of the identity he'd built around being the man who did those things. Because that identity had become a trap. He wasn't living his values. He was performing them. And performance always breaks. Seneca said it plainly. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Cale had been suffering under the weight of an imagined version of himself, the person he thought he needed to become. And every day he woke up and wasn't that person yet. He felt like he was failing. But he wasn't failing. He was just human. And he'd forgotten that being human doesn't mean being broken. Viridius gave him one instruction. Just one. When you wake up tomorrow, don't ask what you need to do. Ask what's already true. Not what should be true. Not what you want to be true. What is true? Right now, in this moment. And build from there. Cale did. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was fighting himself. Here's what you do. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone or your plan or your list, pause just for 10 seconds and ask yourself one question. Not what do I need to accomplish? Not what kind of person am I trying to be? Just this. What is true right now? Not your story about it. Not your judgment of it. Just the fact. You're awake. You're breathing. You have this moment. Start there. And let everything you do come from that ground, not from the image of who you think you should be. That's the foundation. Everything else is just stones. If this reframed how you see your own resistance, subscribe. Next time we go deeper into what you build on that foundation, you don't see it yet, but this is only the beginning.